Did he ever find what he was looking for? Was the man in the jumpsuit, the one who sold 1 billion records, ever just a man? And when he sang of a lonely street to a heart that was broken, was he singing to us, or was he just singing to himself in the dark? And number 20. And is this the only thing that I have to show? Elvis Presley recorded Fame and Fortune on March 21st, 1960. It was his second recording session after leaving the U.S. Army. He had been away from a commercial studio for nearly 2 years. The world had changed. Rock and roll had moved on. There was a real fear among his team that he was no longer relevant. His first post-Army single, Stuck on You, was a hit, but it was safe. Fame and Fortune was the B-side, but it held a deeper, more troubling question. The song itself is a simple ballad. A man tells his lover that fame and fortune are nothing compared to her love. He would give it all up for her. But the question lurking beneath the surface is chilling. After all the work, all the screaming fans, all the money, all the gold records, is this it? Is love the only thing that makes any of it worthwhile? The session took place at RCA's Studio B in Nashville. This was a new era. His original band members, Scotty Moore and Bill Black, were not the core of his sound anymore. DJ Fontana was there on drums, but the session was dominated by Nashville's A-team musicians, including guitarist Hank Garland and pianist Floyd Kramer. Elvis was now 25 years old. He was no longer the rebellious kid from Memphis. He was a global superstar, a product, a corporation. The raw energy of the Sun Studio days was gone, replaced by a polished, professional sound. He sang the lyrics with a smooth, controlled voice. Fame and fortune, how empty they can be. But was he just singing the words, or was he beginning to feel them? Consider his life up to that point. He grew up in absolute poverty in Tupelo, Mississippi. His family moved to Memphis for a better life they never quite found. He drove a truck for Crown Electric. His first recording was a gift for his mother Gladys. When Sam Phillips discovered him, it was like lightning in a bottle. Fame came so fast, it was disorienting. By 1956, he was the most famous person in the world. He bought Graceland. He showered his parents with gifts. He achieved the American dream on a scale that was unimaginable, but it came at a price. His mother, who he adored, struggled with his fame. She worried constantly. Her health declined, and she died in 1958 while he was in the Army. He was devastated. He was 23 years old and had already lost his anchor. So when he returned from the Army in 1960, he was a different person. He was richer, more famous, but he was also more isolated. He was surrounded by his entourage, the Memphis Mafia, but he was fundamentally alone. The question in Fame and Fortune becomes a desperate plea. He has the money, he has the celebrity, but these things feel hollow. He needs something real to hold on to. He asks his love if she understands that she is his only treasure. The song presents this as a romantic choice, but in the context of his life, it feels like a statement of fact. Without a genuine human connection, the fame and fortune were just empty props on a very lonely stage. The song got to number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a respectable hit, but it didn't provide an answer. Did he ever find that one person who made it all worthwhile? He married Priscilla, but their love story was complicated and ultimately ended. He had many relationships, but he always seemed to be searching. The question remained, at the end of his life, surrounded by the gilded clutter of Graceland, was he still wondering if the gold records and the sold-out shows were the only things he had to show for it all? The song is a beautiful ballad, but it's also a quiet cry for help from a man standing on top of the world, terrified of the view. Number 19. Tell me, why is the world so blind? In 1968, Elvis Presley was at a crossroads. His movie career was a joke. He was churning out terrible films with terrible soundtracks. He hadn't had a #1 hit in years. He was seen as a relic from a bygone era. Then came the '68 comeback special. It was a chance to remind the world who he was. And in the middle of that raw, powerful television event, he debuted a new song, If I Can Dream. It was written by Walter Earl Brown, who was inspired by the recent assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. The song is a passionate plea for a better world, a world of peace and understanding. It's filled with questions. If I can dream of a better land, where all my brothers walk hand in hand, tell me why. Oh why? Oh why can't my dream come true? But the most direct, most heartbreaking question is aimed at all of us. Tell me, why is the world so blind? The producer of the special, Steve Binder, was the one who pushed for a meaningful closing song. Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, wanted him to end the show with a cozy Christmas song. It would have been safe. It would have been bland. Binder knew this was a moment to make a statement. He tasked Earl Brown with writing something that captured the turmoil of 1968. America was in chaos. The Vietnam War was raging. Robert F. Kennedy had just been assassinated. There were riots in the streets. Earl Brown wrote the song, and when he played it for Elvis, Elvis was moved. He reportedly said, "I'm never going to sing another song I don't believe in." This was one he believed in. He recorded the vocal late at night on June 23rd, 1968. The studio was dark. He was on his knees, singing with an intensity that stunned everyone in the room. It was not the polished pop star of the 60s. It was not the swaggering rocker of the 50s. This was something else. It was the sound of a man pouring out his soul. He was channeling all the pain and confusion of the times. The question, "Tell me, why is the world so blind?" is not rhetorical. It is a genuine cry of disbelief. Why can't we see the obvious? Why can't we see that we are all connected? Why do we choose hate over love, division over unity? Elvis himself had seen both sides of a divided America. He grew up in the segregated South, but his musical influences were a blend of black and white cultures. He loved gospel music, which he heard in black churches. He loved the blues, which he heard on Beale Street. His music broke down racial barriers, which is why so many people in authority were afraid of it in the 1950s. He had seen people come together through his music, and yet the world around him seemed to be tearing itself apart. So when he sang that question, it came from a place of deep personal experience. He had seen the possibility of a better world. Why was it so hard to achieve? The song doesn't offer an answer, it only offers hope. As long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. It's a powerful statement of faith in humanity, but the underlying question hangs in the air. Decades later, the world is still struggling with the same issues. We are still divided. We are still blind to so much. The dream Elvis sang of so passionately still feels just out of reach. The song became a huge hit, reaching number 12 on the charts and reestablishing him as a serious artist. But its power is not in its chart performance. Its power is in its unanswered question. It forces us to look at ourselves, at our world, and ask the same thing. Why are we so blind? And what can we do to finally open our eyes? Number 18, what good is a song if it doesn't inspire? And Elvis recorded Let Yourself Go for the soundtrack of his 1968 movie, Speedway. The movie is forgettable. It's one of his last formulaic musical comedies, but the song contains a line that feels like a mission statement for the second half of his career. He sings it with a playful swagger, but the question is profound. Why good is a song if it doesn't inspire? This wasn't just a throwaway lyric in a movie song. For Elvis, it was becoming a real concern. He had spent the better part of a decade singing songs that did not inspire him. Songs like Do the Clam and Yoga is as Yoga does. He was a musical genius trapped in a cage of mediocrity, and he knew it. The recording session for the Speedway soundtrack took place in June 1967. The Beatles had just released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The world of music was exploding with creativity and experimentation, and Elvis was in a Hollywood studio singing songs about racing cars. He was bored, he was frustrated, the musicians around him could feel it. He would go through the motions, deliver a professional vocal, and collect his check. The fire was gone. This lyric, what good is a song if it doesn't inspire, must have felt like a cruel joke. He was asking a question that he couldn't answer in his own career at that moment. Think about the contrast. In the 1950s, his songs inspired a generation. They were dangerous, exciting, full of life. They inspired kids to dance, to rebel, to feel something new. In the early 1960s, after the Army, he recorded some of his best work. Albums like Elvis is Back and his hand in mine were full of passion and artistry. But then the Hollywood machine took over. Colonel Parker's strategy was simple: make 3 movies a year, release a soundtrack album for each, and make as much money as possible. The quality of the music was secondary. For a man who loved music as much as Elvis did, this was a slow kind of death. The question in Let Yourself Go is a turning point. It's a flicker of the old Elvis, a hint of the artist who was desperate to break free. Just a year later, he would film the '68 comeback special. He would finally get to sing songs that inspired him again. He would sing blues, gospel, and powerful new ballads. He would remind everyone, and perhaps himself, what good a song could be. He would go on to record Suspicious Minds, In the Ghetto, and In Kentucky Rain at the American Sound Studio sessions in Memphis. These were songs with grit, with emotion, with stories to tell. They were songs that inspired, but the question never really went away. Even in his triumphant Vegas years, he had to sing the movie songs. He had to sing Teddy Bear and Don't Be Cruel for the 1000th time. There were nights when you could hear the weariness in his voice. He was still searching for that inspiration. He would find it in his gospel music, when he sang songs like How Great Thou Art or Why Me, Lord. He was fully present, fully inspired. That was the music that fed his soul. The question from Let Yourself Go is a challenge to all artists, but it was most importantly a challenge Elvis posed to himself. He knew the answer. A song that doesn't inspire is just noise. It's a product. It's a waste of time. He spent years making noise, and it nearly broke his spirit. The struggle to find and sing songs that mattered defined the rest of his life. Or number 17, How Can We Go On When We Can't Be Lovers? Separate Ways was released in 1972. It's one of the most painfully autobiographical songs Elvis ever recorded. He didn't write it. It was written by Red West, one of his oldest friends and a member of the Memphis Mafia, and Richard Minnegra. But he sang it as if he had written every word. He and Priscilla had separated in February of that year. The song is a stark, honest look at the end of a relationship, especially when a child is involved. The central question is a puzzle with no solution. How can we go on when we can't be lovers and we're not even friends? It's the sound of a heart breaking in slow motion. The recording session took place on March 27th, 1972 at RCA's Studio C in Hollywood. The mood was somber. Everyone knew what the song was about. Elvis's voice is stripped of all its usual power and bravado. It's quiet, vulnerable, and full of pain. He's not performing, he's confessing. The lyrics talk about putting on a show for their daughter, pretending everything is okay. Will go on hurting the same old way, playing a game from day to day. For Elvis, who now had to navigate a co-parenting relationship with Priscilla, for their daughter, Lisa Marie, this was not a fictional story. It was his reality. The question goes to the heart of what it means to untangle a life from someone else's. When you build a life with someone, you are more than just lovers. You are partners, confidants, best friends. When the love goes, what is left? The song suggests that what's left is an awkward, painful limbo. You're not strangers, but you're not friends either. You share a history, a child, memories, but you can't connect in the way you used to. How do you navigate that? The song offers no easy answers. It just lays the problem bare. Elvis and Priscilla's story was a fairy tale that had soured. He met her when she was just 14 years old in Germany. He was the biggest star in the world. He molded her into his ideal woman. They married in 1967. But the reality of their life was far from perfect. He was often on the road. He was unfaithful. She was young and isolated in the bubble of Graceland. By 1972, the fairy tale was over. The love had died, but the connection remained because of Lisa Marie. The question in Separate Ways is the question they both had to face. The song is a stark contrast to his big, bombastic Vegas showstoppers. There is no triumphant orchestra, no karate kicks. It's just a man, a piano, and a broken heart. It's a quiet moment of reflection in a life that was lived at full volume. It's a universal question. Anyone who has gone through a difficult breakup, especially with children involved, has asked themselves some version of this. How do we do this? How do we move forward when the old map is gone? The song became a top 20 hit, resonating with a public that was beginning to see the cracks in the King's perfect facade. It didn't offer a solution. It just offered a shared moment of pain, a recognition that even for Elvis Presley, love was complicated and heartbreak was real. And the question of how to go on remains one of the hardest we ever have to face. Number 16, are you lonesome tonight? This is perhaps the most famous question Elvis ever asked. He didn't write, are you lonesome tonight? The song dates back to 1926, but he made it his own. He recorded it on April 4th, 1960, during the same fertile sessions that produced It's Now or Never. The song is a monologue set to music. A man sits alone, remembering a lost love. He asks her if she, too, is lonely. The question is simple, direct, and devastatingly sad. It speaks to a profound human fear, the fear of being alone in the dark. The recording itself is legendary. It was late at night at RCA Studio B in Nashville. The lights were turned down low. Elvis was singing live with the band. They did a few takes, but he wasn't happy. Colonel Parker and the RCA executives were ready to pack it in. They thought they had a good enough take. Elvis insisted on one more. He wanted it to be perfect. On that final take, he poured all of his own loneliness into the song. The spoken word bridge, taken from Shakespeare, is delivered with a quiet, theatrical sadness. It's the performance of a man who understands loneliness not as an idea, but as a physical presence. Why would Elvis Presley, the most desired man in the world, be lonely? It's a paradox that defined his life. He was never physically alone. He was constantly surrounded by his entourage, by screaming fans, by people who wanted something from him. But he was emotionally isolated. Who could he talk to? Who could understand the bizarre reality of his life? He was trapped by his own fame. He couldn't go out for a walk. He couldn't go to a movie. His world was Graceland, the film set, the recording studio, and the hotel suite. In that world, true connection was almost impossible. So when he asks, "Are you lonesome tonight?" it feels like he is projecting his own feelings onto the listener. He's reaching out from his gilded cage, hoping someone out there understands. There's a famous live version of this song from 1969 where he famously gets the giggles during the spoken word part. He sees a bald man in the audience, and a backup singer does something to make him laugh, and he just can't stop. It's a moment of pure, unscripted joy. But there's another, much darker live version from his final tour in 1977. He's overweight, sick, and clearly struggling. He forgets the words, he rambles, he turns the sad monologue into a desperate, confused plea. He seems to be asking the question not of a long-lost lover, but of himself, of the audience, of God. He sounds utterly, completely alone. It's almost unbearable to listen to. The question has no answer because it's not really a question for someone else. It's a question we ask ourselves. It's the question that keeps us up at night. Am I alone in feeling this way? Does anyone see me? The song's enduring power is in its vulnerability. It's the king admitting he's just as fragile as the rest of us. He may have had everything, but at the end of the day, he was just a man wondering if anyone else was out there feeling just as lonesome as he was. The lights go down, the crowd goes home, and the question hangs in the silence. Number 15, will my darling be waiting for me? Elvis recorded Kentucky Rain in February 1969. It was part of the incredible run of hits he produced at American Sound Studio in Memphis. The song is a mini-movie. A man is walking, hitchhiking through the cold Kentucky rain, searching for a woman who left him. He doesn't know why she left, he only knows he has to find her. The entire song is propelled by a desperate, unanswered question, will my darling be waiting for me? It's a question of hope against all odds. The song was written by Eddie Rabbitt and Dick Herd. Rabbitt, who would go on to have his own successful country music career, tells a story of once being broke and sleeping in a car during a thunderstorm. The sound of the rain on the roof stayed with him. He channeled that feeling of being lost and alone into the lyrics. The music, driven by Ronnie Millsap's rolling piano, mimics the relentless rain and the man's desperate search. And Elvis's vocal performance is incredible. It's full of urgency and desperation. You can feel the cold. You can feel the exhaustion. You can feel the hope that is keeping him going. The question is, what makes the song so compelling? We don't know the backstory. We don't know if he did something to drive her away. We don't know if she wants to be found. All we know is his side of the story. He is consumed by the need to find her and make things right. He asks the question not just once, but implicitly with every step he takes. Every car that passes him by, every drop of rain that hits his face reinforces the uncertainty. Will this journey end in a joyful reunion or in heartbreak? The song doesn't give us an answer. It ends with him still walking, still searching, the rain still falling. The question is left hanging in the air. This is what makes it so powerful. It captures a moment of pure, unresolved tension. Life is full of these moments. We take a risk, we chase a dream, we try to mend a broken relationship, and we don't know how it will turn out. We just have to keep walking through the rain, hoping our darling is waiting for us at the end of the road. For Elvis, the song may have resonated on a deeper level. His own relationship with Priscilla was often turbulent. He was on the road for long periods. There were misunderstandings, arguments, and infidelities on his part. Perhaps he saw himself in the man in the song, a man who realizes too late what he has lost and is desperate to get it back. The song is about a physical journey, but it's also about an emotional one. It's about the search for forgiveness, for a second chance. Kentucky Rain was a huge hit, reaching the top 20. It's a fan favorite because it's a great story song with a powerhouse vocal, but it endures because of its unanswered question. It taps into a universal experience of searching for something or someone, fueled by a hope that is both powerful and fragile. We all have our own Kentucky Rain to walk through. We all have a version of that question that pushes us forward even when the outcome is unknown. Number 14 is your heart filled with pain. This question comes from the second half of Are You Lonesome Tonight? After asking about loneliness, the narrator goes deeper. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? The first question is about a state of being. This second one is about the cause. It's a question of empathy. He's not just thinking about his own loneliness. He's trying to understand hers. He's wondering if she is hurting as much as he is. This question changes the entire tone of the song. It's not just a man wallowing in his own self-pity. It's a man reaching out, offering comfort. Shall I come back again? Is a tentative offer to heal the pain, to fix what was broken. It's a recognition that their separation has caused mutual suffering. This is a mature and compassionate perspective, something often missing in breakup songs. It elevates the song from a simple lament to a complex emotional negotiation. In the context of Elvis's life, this question is particularly poignant. He caused a great deal of pain to the women in his life, particularly Priscilla. He loved her, but his lifestyle, his fame, and his own insecurities made a normal relationship impossible. He was often a source of her pain. Did he recognize it? Did he understand the hurt he was causing? This song suggests that at some level, he did. The character in the song is capable of looking beyond his own needs and seeing the suffering of the other person. Whether Elvis himself was always capable of that in his real life is a more complicated question. The way he delivers the line is key. It's soft, gentle, almost a whisper. It's an intimate question, one you would only ask someone you have known deeply. There's a risk in asking it. The answer might be yes, and that yes might be an accusation. Yes, my heart is filled with pain, and you are the one who put it there. The singer is willing to take that risk. He is willing to hear the hard truth because he cares enough to ask. The question remains unanswered in the song. She never replies. He is left alone with his memories and his questions. This is often the reality of a breakup. We are left to wonder what the other person is feeling. We have imaginary conversations in our heads, asking the questions we never got to ask, or we're too afraid to ask. The song captures that feeling perfectly. It's a snapshot of a man suspended between the past and a possible future, waiting for an answer that may never come. This question is a lesson in empathy. It reminds us that behind every conflict, every separation, there are two people, both likely in pain. To ask, is your heart filled with pain, is to open the door to understanding and maybe even to reconciliation. It's a question that requires courage to ask, and even more courage to answer honestly. In the quiet of the song, Elvis asks it for all of us who have ever looked back and wondered about the pain we left behind. Number 13, Why Me, Lord? Elvis didn't write Why Me, Lord. It was written by Chris Christopherson, but when Elvis performed it, it became a testament to his own spiritual struggles. The song is a conversation with God. A man who feels unworthy is overwhelmed by the blessings in his life. He asks, Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the pleasures I've known? It's a question of grace, of humility, and of a deep-seated feeling of unworthiness. Elvis began performing the song live in 1974. His performances were legendary. He would often have J.D. Sumner, the bass singer from his backup group, the Stamps Quartet, sing the first verse. Sumner's incredibly deep voice would set a somber, reverent tone. Then Elvis would take over, his own voice filled with a raw, pleading emotion. It was not a performance. It was a prayer. You could hear the struggle in his voice. Here was a man who had everything the world could offer: fame, wealth, adoration. And yet, he felt like a sinner, a man who didn't deserve any of it. To understand why this question resonated so deeply with Elvis, you have to understand his upbringing. He grew up in the Assembly of God Church in Tupelo. It was a deeply religious, emotional environment. Music was a huge part of the worship. He was taught about sin and salvation, about heaven and hell. He carried that religious background with him his whole life. He always had a gospel album in the works. Gospel music was his comfort, his true north. When he was tired or sad, he would gather his friends and sing gospel songs until dawn. But his life was a contradiction. He was a deeply spiritual man living a very worldly life. He was surrounded by temptation, and he often gave in to it. He struggled with prescription drug abuse. He had countless affairs. He lived a life of excess. This created a huge internal conflict. He believed in God, he believed in judgment, and he knew he was falling short. The question, why me, Lord, comes from that conflict. On one hand, it's asking why he has been so blessed. On the other hand, it's asking why he has been given this burden, this life that makes it so hard to be the good man he wants to be. There's a powerful moment in some live recordings where, after asking the question, he ad-libs, "Help me, Jesus." It's a cry from the heart. He's not just asking a theological question, he's asking for help, he feels lost, and he's turning to the only source of strength he has ever known. The question is never answered, of course. That's the nature of faith. It's about believing without having all the answers. But for Elvis, the question was a way of expressing his deepest spiritual anxieties. It was a confession of his sins and a plea for forgiveness, all wrapped up in one simple, powerful question. It's the sound of a king kneeling before his God, asking a question that has haunted believers for centuries. Number 12, where did I go wrong? This question is the emotional core of the song, Always on My Mind. Elvis recorded his version in 1972, shortly after his separation from Priscilla. The song had been recorded by others before, but his version is soaked in personal regret. The lyrics are an apology from a man who knows he has failed his partner. He admits he didn't treat her as good as he should have. He didn't say the right things. He didn't do enough. And he's left wondering, where did I go wrong? The song is not an excuse. It's a confession. The singer knows he is to blame. But he's still trying to understand his own failure. The question, where did I go wrong, is not about shifting blame. It's about a desperate search for self-awareness. He is replaying the relationship in his mind, trying to pinpoint the moments where he made the wrong turn, where he missed the signs. It's a painful process of introspection that anyone who has experienced regret will recognize. Elvis recorded the song on March 29th, 1972, just 2 days after he recorded the equally heartbreaking Separate Ways. He was clearly processing the end of his marriage through his music. His vocal performance is restrained. and full of sorrow. He's not the swaggering king of rock and roll. He's a man humbled by his own mistakes. When he sings, "Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have," it's a direct admission of his failings as a husband. The context of his marriage to Priscilla makes the question even more powerful. He was an absentee husband. His life was chaotic and consumed by his career and his entourage. He was not always emotionally available. He was unfaithful. In her book, Priscilla describes a man who was loving but also controlling and difficult to live with. When the marriage ended, Elvis was reportedly devastated. He may have finally realized the full extent of what he had lost, and he was forced to confront his own role in that loss. The question in the song is the sound of that painful realization. The song doesn't provide an answer to the question. It can't. The singer is left with his regret and the simple, desperate statement, "You were always on my mind." It's a small comfort, but it's all he has left to offer. It's a way of saying, even when I was failing you, I was still thinking of you. My love was real, even if my actions were not. This is the tragic paradox of the song. Love is not always enough. You can have someone on your mind and still fail to show them the love and respect they deserve. "Always on My Mind" became a beloved classic. It's a go-to song for anyone nursing a broken heart. Its power lies in its honesty. It doesn't try to sugarcoat the pain of regret. It just lays it bare. The question, "Where did I go wrong?" is one we all have to ask ourselves at some point in our lives. It's a necessary, if painful, step toward growth and understanding. For Elvis, it was a rare public moment of vulnerability, an admission that even the king could make mistakes he couldn't take back. Number 11. Have you ever been so blue? This simple question comes from the song, "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry." It's a Hank Williams classic, a song that is considered one of the cornerstones of country music. Elvis was a huge fan of Hank Williams. He understood the deep, profound sadness that Williams was able to capture in his music. Elvis recorded the song for his 1973 satellite TV special Aloha from Hawaii, standing on stage in his iconic white jumpsuit in front of a global audience of over 1 billion people. He sang this quiet, devastating song about loneliness. The question, "Have you ever been so blue?" was a direct address to every single person watching. The song is a masterpiece of melancholy imagery. The lonesome whippoorwill, the silent robin, the falling star. Nature itself seems to be mourning. The singer hears these sounds and feels them as a reflection of his own inner state. He is so consumed by his sadness that the whole world seems to be crying with him. The question is a test of empathy. Can you, the listener, understand this level of sadness? Have you ever been to this dark place? For Elvis to perform this song at that particular moment is significant. Aloha from Hawaii was the peak of his global fame. He was on top of the world, a living legend broadcasting live via satellite. It was a moment of supreme triumph, and in the middle of it, he chose to sing about the most isolating human emotion there is. It was a stark reminder that fame and success are no protection against sadness. He was surrounded by adulation, but he was still capable of feeling a loneliness so deep it felt like the world was ending. His own life was becoming increasingly blue. His divorce from Priscilla was finalized in 1973. His health was deteriorating. His dependency on prescription drugs was growing. The pressures of being Elvis were taking a terrible toll. The man in the glittering jumpsuit was a prisoner of his own image. So when he sang "Have You Ever Been So Blue?", he wasn't just interpreting a classic country song. He was bearing his own soul. He was asking for understanding from an audience that saw him as a god, not as a man. The question is a bridge. It connects the singer to the listener. It says, "I am feeling this immense sadness. Maybe you have felt it too. If you have, then you and I are not so different." It's an act of communion in the midst of despair. The song doesn't offer a way out of the sadness. It just sits with it, acknowledges it, and gives it a voice. It says that it's okay to be blue, that it's a part of the human experience. The question remains unanswered because it is deeply personal. Only, if you've been that blue, only you know what it feels like when the silence is deafening and every sound is a reminder of your own sorrow. By asking the question on a global stage, Elvis universalized that private pain. He let his billion viewers know that even the king of rock and roll gets the blues. And in that shared understanding, there is a small measure of comfort. Number 10. Can't You See I Love You? This question is the heart of Don't Be Cruel, one of Elvis's biggest and most important hits from 1956. On the surface, it's a simple pop song. A boy is pleading with a girl who is treating him badly. He doesn't understand why she is being so mean when he is being so loving. The question, "Can't you see I love you?" is a cry of frustration and disbelief. It's the sound of someone whose love is being met with a cold shoulder. The song was written by Otis Blackwell, a prolific songwriter who also wrote All Shook Up and Return to Sender. Blackwell was a master of crafting catchy, relatable pop songs. Don't Be Cruel is a perfect example. The rhythm is infectious and the lyrics are simple and direct. Elvis's performance is a masterclass in cool. His voice is smooth and confident, but with an undercurrent of vulnerability. The hiccuping vocal style he perfected is on full display. He's the cool guy who is not afraid to show that he's been hurt. The question itself is a classic lover's complaint. I'm giving you my all. Why can't you see it? Why are you playing these games? It speaks to the maddening experience of being in a one-sided relationship or a relationship where the signals are crossed. The singer is being completely open and honest about his feelings, but the object of his affection is being distant and cruel. He is at a loss, he has laid his heart bare, and it is being ignored. In the context of 1956, this was a new kind of male voice in pop music. The male singers of the pre-rock era were often stoic and in control. Elvis introduced a new kind of masculinity. He could be tough and swaggering one moment and then tender and vulnerable the next. In Don't Be Cruel, he is admitting that a woman has the power to hurt him. This was a radical idea for mainstream pop music, and it's one of the reasons young people connected with him so deeply. He was expressing emotions they felt but rarely heard sung about on the radio. The question has no answer in the song. The girl never responds. We are left with the singer's plea hanging in the air. This is what makes the song so effective. It captures that moment of frustration perfectly. We don't know if she will ever change her mind. We just know that he is stuck, wondering why his love is not being seen or reciprocated. For Elvis, the question may have taken on a different meaning as his fame grew. He gave his love to his audience every night. He poured his heart out on stage, but the media and the critics were often cruel to him. They called him vulgar. They tried to censor him. They dismissed his talent. He may have felt like he was in a relationship with a public that loved him one minute and turned on him the next. Can't you see I love you? Can't you see what I am giving you? It's a question he could have been asking the world. The song is a pop masterpiece, but beneath its catchy surface lies a timeless, frustrating question about the blindness of a heart that refuses to see the love that is right in front of it. Number 9. And must I live a lifetime with this memory? This haunting question comes from the song It's Over, a dramatic ballad Elvis recorded in 1964. The song describes the exact moment a relationship ends. The lovers say their final goodbye. The singer is left alone, watching his love walk away. He is in a state of shock, disbelief, and dawning horror. The final line of the song is a question that stretches out into a bleak and empty future. And must I live a lifetime with this memory? The song was a showcase for Elvis's incredible vocal range and power. It was written by country music legend Roy Orbison, who was a master of the dramatic operatic ballad. Orbison's songs often dealt with themes of loss and heartbreak on an epic scale. Elvis was the perfect interpreter for this kind of material. He had the voice and the emotional depth to pull it off. His performance on It's Over is breathtaking. He starts softly, almost in a whisper, and builds to a powerful, soaring climax. The final note is held with a combination of strength and despair. The question is, what makes the song so devastating? It's not just about the pain of the moment. It's about the fear of a future haunted by that pain. The singer is not just sad, he is terrified. He is facing the prospect of living for decades with the memory of this one moment, the moment she walked away. It's a life sentence of heartbreak. The question is a plea to the universe. Is there no escape? Is this my fate? For Elvis, the mid-1960s were a strange time. He was at the height of his movie-making fame, but he was creatively unfulfilled. He was living a life that was increasingly isolated. The question of being haunted by memory must have had a special resonance for him. He was haunted by the memory of his mother. He was haunted by the memory of the raw, exciting artist he used to be. The life he was living was a pale imitation of the life he could have had. He was trapped in a cycle of bland movies and forgettable songs. He was already living with the memory of a better time. The question also speaks to a universal fear. We all have memories we wish we could erase, a painful breakup, a terrible mistake, a moment of loss. We worry that these memories will define us forever, that we will never be free of them. The song gives voice to that fear in the most dramatic way possible. It suggests that some moments are so painful they leave a permanent scar on the soul. There is no answer to the question in the song. It ends on a note of pure, unresolved despair. The listener is left to contemplate the terrifying possibility that, yes, sometimes we do have to live a lifetime with a painful memory. It's a bleak thought, but it's an honest one. It's Over is not a song for the faint of heart. It's a deep dive into the abyss of heartbreak, and it leaves us with a question that echoes long after the music has stopped. Number 8, Are You Still Mine? This is the central question of Unchained Melody, a song Elvis performed with staggering passion in his final years. The song was written in 1955, but Elvis's version, recorded for his last television special in 1977, is arguably the definitive one. He sits at the piano, his health clearly failing, and pours every last ounce of his energy and emotion into the performance. The song is a plea from a lover who is separated by a long distance. He is waiting for his love to return, and he is tormented by a single question, Are you still mine? The performance from the 1977 special is almost difficult to watch. Elvis is overweight, sweating profusely, and breathing heavily. He seems unwell. But when he starts to sing, something magical happens. You know, the physical weakness falls away, and all that is left is the voice. It is a voice filled with a lifetime of pain, longing, and love. He accompanies himself on the piano, something he rarely did on stage. The performance is raw, unvarnished, and utterly spellbinding. The question, Are you still mine? Is a cry against the uncertainty of time and distance. The singer is trapped by his loneliness. He longs for the touch of his lover. He needs reassurance. He needs to know that her love has survived their separation. It's a question born of insecurity and deep, abiding love. The singer's entire world hangs on the answer. In the context of Elvis's life at that time, the question takes on a much deeper, more tragic meaning. Who is he singing to? Is he singing to a former lover, like Ginger Alden, his girlfriend at the time? Or is he singing to something he has lost? Is he asking his talent? Are you still mine? After years of abuse, of coasting, of not taking care of himself, perhaps he feared that his gift was leaving him. Is he asking his audience, Are you still mine? After all the years, after all the changes, does the love affair between the king and his fans still exist? Or is he asking something even more profound? Is he at the end of his life looking up at the heavens and asking God, am I still yours? The performance feels like a final statement. He is a man confronting his own mortality. He knows he is near the end. And in this final act, he is bearing his soul, asking the most fundamental questions of love and faith. The song becomes a prayer for connection in the face of an impending final separation. The question is never answered. The song ends with a powerful crescendo, a final declaration of need. I need your love. It's a cliffhanger. We are left with the image of this broken man at the piano, pleading for an assurance that may never come. He would be dead less than 2 months after this performance was filmed. This makes the question all the more poignant. It was one of the last questions he ever asked the world, and it's a question that still echoes, a testament to a love so powerful it transcends even death. And number 7, if our love was just a game, then why all this pain? This question comes from the heart of Suspicious Minds, arguably Elvis's greatest and most enduring song. Released in 1969, it was his last #1 single in the United States during his lifetime. The song describes a relationship that is being torn apart by mistrust and jealousy. The lovers are trapped in a cycle of suspicion, unable to move forward. The singer is begging for a way out, for a return to the love they once had. The question cuts through all the drama and gets to the core of the problem. If our love was just a game, then why all this pain? The song was written by Mark James and recorded at the legendary American Sound Studio sessions in Memphis. The producer, Chips Moman, was instrumental in crafting the song's unique sound. The most famous element is the false ending, where the song fades out and then comes roaring back to life. This was actually a mistake by the engineer, but Moman loved it and fought to keep it in. The fade out and fade in perfectly mirror the emotional state of the song. The relationship is dying, but then it comes back, trapped in the same painful loop. The question is a brilliant piece of emotional logic. If this relationship was casual, if it didn't mean anything, then a breakup would be easy. But it's not easy. It's agonizing. The pain is proof that the love is real. The singer is using their shared suffering as evidence that the relationship is worth saving. He is saying, we wouldn't be hurting this much if we didn't care this much. So let's not throw it away. It's a desperate, last-ditch effort to make his partner see the truth. This song was recorded at a time when Elvis's own marriage to Priscilla was beginning to crumble. The themes of mistrust and suspicion were very real to him. Priscilla had an affair. Elvis was frequently unfaithful. They were caught in a trap of their own making. When he sings, we can't go on together with suspicious minds, and we can't build our dreams on suspicious minds, he is singing about his own life. The pain in his voice is not an act. It's the sound of a man watching his own dream fall apart. The question is also a universal one. Anyone who has been in a toxic, jealousy-fueled relationship knows this feeling. You love the person, but the relationship is destroying you. You can't live with them, and you can't live without them. The question is a moment of clarity in the midst of the chaos. It's a plea to stop the games, to stop the accusations, and to remember the real, powerful love that is being suffocated by all the suspicion. The song doesn't offer an easy answer. The singer can only plead for a second chance, for a return to trust. But the music, with its relentless driving rhythm and its cyclical structure, suggests that they may be trapped forever. The question hangs in the air, a painful reminder that love is not always enough to conquer our own demons. The pain is real, but so is the suspicion, and the song leaves us wondering which one will win in the end. Number 6. How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? This question isn't from an Elvis song, it's from Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind. But Elvis's connection to this question is powerful and complex. Elvis never officially recorded Blowin' in the Wind for an album release. However, there are home recordings and stories of him singing it in private. He was a huge admirer of Dylan's songwriting. The question of social responsibility, of seeing injustice and doing nothing, was something that weighed on him, especially in the late 1960s. This question, more than any other, encapsulates the central moral dilemma he faced as the most famous man in the world. Elvis was not a political activist. His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, made sure that the Colonel's philosophy was simple: don't say anything that could alienate any part of your audience. Keep it safe, keep it professional, sell records. Elvis, for the most part, followed these rules. He rarely gave political interviews. He kept his opinions to himself. He turned his head, but was he pretending not to see? That's a more complicated question. In 1968, the world was on fire. The Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, political assassinations. It was impossible not to see what was happening, and Elvis was seeing it. He was deeply affected by the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., which happened in his own hometown of Memphis. This event spurred him to record songs with a social conscience, songs like If I Can Dream and In the Ghetto. These were his way of not turning his head. It was a risk. The Colonel was against it, but Elvis insisted. So, the question, how many times can a man turn his head, is one that Elvis seems to have asked himself. He had a platform bigger than almost anyone on the planet. He could have been a powerful voice for change. But he was also a prisoner of his own fame, managed by a man who prioritized commerce over conscience. His decision to record socially aware songs in 1969 was a brief but powerful moment where he refused to pretend he didn't see. Think of the contrast. In the 1950s, his very existence was a political statement. His music, his dancing, his attitude, it all challenged the conservative norms of the time. He broke down racial barriers in music without ever saying a word about it. He just did it. He played the music he loved, which was a fusion of black and white traditions. But as he became a bigger and bigger star, he became more cautious. The rebel was tamed. The question from Dylan's song is a challenge to that caution. It asks how long you can maintain your silence in the face of injustice. Elvis's answer was complicated. For much of his career, he turned his head. But there were moments, important moments, where he faced the wind and sang about what he saw. Those moments show us the man he could have been, the man who was struggling with the weight of his own silence. The question has no easy answer, not for Dylan and not for Elvis. It's a question that continues to challenge anyone with a voice and a conscience. And number 5, does he see another hungry child is born? This is the implied, devastating question at the heart of In the Ghetto. Released in 1969, this was one of Elvis's most important and controversial songs. It tells the story of a boy born into poverty in a Chicago ghetto. He grows up hungry, learns to fight, steals and runs, and is ultimately killed. The song ends with a chilling repetition of the beginning as the young man dies. Another baby is born in the ghetto. The cycle continues. The question that hangs over the entire narrative is, does the world see this? Does anyone care? The song was written by Mac Davis. He was inspired by his own childhood growing up poor in Lubbock, Texas. He wanted to write a song about the vicious cycle of poverty. When he pitched it to Elvis, everyone, including Colonel Parker, thought it was a terrible idea. It was a protest song. It was too political. It would alienate his conservative Southern fan base. Elvis didn't care. He understood the song on a visceral level. He had been that hungry child. Elvis grew up in a 2-room shotgun shack in Tupelo, Mississippi. His family was dirt poor. He knew what it was like to go without. He knew what it was like to feel trapped by your circumstances. When he recorded In the Ghetto, he wasn't a rich celebrity pretending to care about the poor. He was a man who had escaped the ghetto, looking back with empathy and sorrow. He was using his massive platform to shine a light on a problem that most of a comfortable, middle-class America preferred to ignore. The question Does He See is directed at everyone. It's directed at the people who live outside the ghetto, who turn their heads and look the other way. It's a challenge to our indifference. The song's final lines are a punch to the gut. The young man is dead, and his mama cries. The focus shifts from the societal problem to the individual human tragedy, and then the cycle repeats. And another little baby child is born in the ghetto. The song offers no hope, no solution. It just presents the cold, hard reality. Elvis's vocal performance is a masterpiece of storytelling. He's not angry or preachy. He's a narrator, a witness. His voice is full of a deep, weary sadness. He is simply telling the story, forcing us to listen, forcing us to see. The fact that Elvis Presley, the symbol of the American dream, was singing this song made it impossible to ignore. He was telling his audience that the dream was not available to everyone. The question remains unanswered because the problem remains unsolved. Poverty, crime, and lack of opportunity continue to plague communities around the world. The cycle that Mac Davis wrote about and that Elvis sang about with such feeling is still turning. In the Ghetto is more than just a hit song. It's a powerful piece of social commentary. It's a permanent question mark, forcing us to ask ourselves if we are still turning our heads, still pretending not to see the hungry child being born. Number 4, What Now, My Love? Elvis recorded his version of the French song Et Maintenant, What Now, My Love, in 1972. It became a staple of his live shows, a big, dramatic, show-stopping ballad. The song describes the aftermath of a love affair. The lover is gone. The world is empty. The singer is left with nothing but a devastating question. What now, my love? Now that you've left me, how can I live through another day? The song is an emotional tour de force. It starts quietly, with a sense of numb disbelief. The singer is lost, adrift. No one to talk to, no one to cry to. Then the music builds. The emotion swells. The quiet despair turns into a full-throated cry of agony. And Elvis, with his powerful voice and his flair for the dramatic, was the perfect vehicle for this song. On stage, he would act out the lyrics, falling to his knees, his voice soaring over the orchestra. It was pure melodrama, but it was also profoundly real. The question "What now?" is one of the most terrifying questions a person can face. It's a question of absolute existential dread. Your world had a center, and that center is gone. The map you were using is now useless. You are completely and utterly lost. The song captures that feeling of disorientation perfectly. The future, which was once full of promise, is now a dark and endless sea. For Elvis in the 1970s, this question had a particular resonance. His marriage was over. His health was failing. He was bored with the routine of his Vegas shows. He was trapped. He had reached the pinnacle of success, and he was discovering that there was nothing there. He had conquered the world. What now? The question in the song is about a lost love. But for Elvis, it could have been about a lost life, a lost purpose. The song offers no answer. It just spirals deeper and deeper into despair. The singer is left with nothing but my tears. There is no hope of reconciliation, no glimmer of a new beginning. There is only the end. This is what makes the song so powerful and so bleak. It doesn't offer any comfort. It just forces you to sit in the uncomfortable reality of complete and total loss. The question, "What now?" is not just about romantic love. It's a question we face after any great loss. The loss of a job, the death of a loved one, the end of a dream. It's the question that comes after the world falls apart. How do you rebuild? How do you even take the first step? The song doesn't know. It can only ask the question again and again, its voice filled with a pain that is almost too big to bear. In Elvis's hands, it became more than a song. It became an anthem for the brokenhearted, a raw cry into the void, with no expectation of an answer. Number 3, is this a dream? This question comes from It's Now or Never, one of Elvis's best-selling singles of all time. Recorded in 1960, the song is based on the Italian classic O Sole Mio, where Elvis had heard the song while he was stationed in Germany in the army. He fell in love with the melody and was determined to record an English version. The lyrics tell the story of a man who is on the verge of a magical night of love. He is so overwhelmed by the moment that he has to ask, "It's now or never, come hold me tight. Kiss me, my darling, be mine tonight. Tomorrow will be too late. It's now or never. My love won't wait. When I first saw you, with your smile so tender, my heart was captured, my soul surrendered. I'd spend a lifetime waiting for the right time. Now that you're near, the time is here at last. Is this a dream?" The question is a moment of pure, breathless wonder. The singer can't believe his good fortune. The moment he's been waiting for his entire life is finally here. It feels too good to be true. It must be a dream. The question captures the dizzying, surreal feeling of a dream coming true. It's a moment of ecstatic disbelief. Elvis's performance is a vocal triumph. He delivers the song with a quasi-operatic flair, his voice full and rich. The final note is a stunning display of his vocal power and control. The song was a massive global hit. It showed a new, more mature Elvis. He wasn't the snarling rebel of the 50s. He was a sophisticated, romantic leading man. The song defined his post-army comeback. The question, "Is this a dream?" can also be seen as a metaphor for his own life. Think about it. A poor boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, becomes the most famous entertainer in the world. He buys his mother a pink Cadillac. He lives in a mansion. He has millions of fans who worship him. It's a story that is so incredible it seems like a fairy tale. It must have felt like a dream to him. There must have been moments when he woke up in Graceland and had to ask himself, "Is this real? Did this really happen to me?" But dreams can turn into nightmares. The dream of fame became a prison of isolation. The dream of wealth did not bring him happiness. The dream of love ended in divorce. The question, "Is this a dream?" has a double meaning. In the song, it's a question of joy. In the context of his life, it can also be a question of confusion and unreality. His life was so strange, so far removed from normal human experience, that it may have ceased to feel real to him. He was living in a dream world, but he was the only one in it. The song itself is a perfect capsule of a perfect moment. It's about seizing the day, about recognizing that moment of perfect happiness and embracing it. But the question that lingers is about the nature of those moments. Are they real? Or are they just fleeting illusions that we can never hold on to? For Elvis, the dream was real, but it came with a price he may have never anticipated. The song is a celebration of a dream come true, but his life is a cautionary tale about what can happen when you can no longer tell the difference between the dream and reality. Number 2. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. And shall I stay? Would it be a sin? These are the opening lines of Can't Help Falling in Love, one of Elvis's most iconic and beloved ballads. Released in 1961 for the movie Blue Hawaii, the song has become a standard, a wedding first dance for generations of couples. The melody is based on a French love song from the 18th century Plaisir d'amour. The lyrics pose a fundamental dilemma of the heart. The singer's head is telling him to be cautious. Wise men say only fools rush in, but his heart is telling him something else entirely. He is falling in love, and it feels inevitable, like a river flowing to the sea. He is caught between wisdom and passion, and he asks two crucial questions. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin? The questions are directed at his lover, but he is also asking himself. Shall I stay? Is a question of commitment. Should I give in to this feeling? Should I take this risk? It's the moment of decision, the point of no return in any relationship. Will it be a sin? Is a more complex question. On one level, it could be about a forbidden love, a love that society might disapprove of. On a deeper level, it's about the morality of passion. Is it a sin to follow your heart, even when your head is telling you it's foolish? Is it a sin to surrender to a force as powerful and irrational as love? Elvis delivers the song with a gentle, tender vulnerability. His voice is a caress. It's a performance of pure, unadulterated romance. He doesn't sound like a fool. He sounds like a man who has found his destiny. The song's gentle, lilting melody suggests that the answer to his questions is yes. Yes, he should stay. No, it would not be a sin. In fact, the real sin would be to walk away from a love this true. The song became the closing number for his live shows for many years. It was the last song many people ever heard him sing in person. As he got older, the song took on a different, more poignant meaning. The man on stage was no longer the handsome young movie star from Blue Hawaii. He was a man who had loved and lost, a man who knew the pain that love could cause. When he sang, "Take my hand, take my whole life too," it sounded less like a romantic promise and more like a desperate plea. The dilemma posed by the opening questions never goes away. Every time we fall in love, we face the same choice. Do we listen to the wise men, the voices of caution and experience, or do we listen to our hearts and rush in knowing that we might get hurt? The song doesn't give a definitive answer, it just lays out the choice. But the music and the emotion in Elvis's voice tells us everything we need to know. Some things are worth being a fool for. The song is a timeless ode to the beautiful, terrifying, and ultimately irresistible foolishness of falling in love. Number 1, are you crying? This is the final heartbreaking question. It doesn't come from a song, it comes from the night he died. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager and one of his closest friends, found him unconscious on the floor of his bathroom at Graceland on August 16th, 1977. In the frantic moments that followed, as paramedics tried to revive him, his 9-year-old daughter, Lisa Marie, came to the door. She saw the chaos, she saw her father lying on the floor, she started to cry. According to some accounts, one of the last things anyone ever said to Elvis's body, as if he could still hear, was a question directed at his crying daughter, a question of comfort from a friend in an impossible moment. But another way to see it is as the final question of Elvis's life, a question asked by his spirit to a world that was about to weep for him. Are you crying? The question is the ultimate measure of a life. Do people cry when you are gone? Does your absence leave a hole in the world? For Elvis Presley, the answer was a deafening yes. When the news of his death broke, the world stopped. People wept openly in the streets. Radio stations played his music nonstop. A spontaneous, grief-stricken vigil began at the gates of Graceland, a vigil that continues to this day. The world was crying. Why? Why such an outpouring of grief for a man most people had never met? Because he was more than just a singer. He was a part of the fabric of their lives. They grew up with him. They fell in love to his songs. They celebrated with his music, and they mourned with his music. He was the voice of their youth, their hopes, their dreams, their heartbreaks. His death felt personal. It felt like a death in the family. The question, "Are you crying?" also feels like a final ironic twist. Here was a man who spent his life singing about loneliness, about heartbreak, about being so blue you could cry. He gave voice to the world's sadness, and in his death, the world gave that sadness back to him, multiplied 1,000,000 times over. He was the lonesome boy from Tupelo, and now the entire world was lonesome for him. There is no answer to this question, only the fact of the tears. The tears of his daughter, the tears of his fans, the tears of a world that had lost something irreplaceable. All the other questions in his songs about love, about loneliness, about faith, about regret, they all lead to this final one. Was it all worth it? Did I matter? The answer was in the sound of 1,000,000,000 people crying. The king was dead, and the world was heartbroken. The questions he asked in his music still have no easy answers, but they continue to echo because they are our questions too. They are the questions of the human heart, and Elvis Presley, more than anyone, gave them a voice.